And our Facebook cousins on here. All right, we have everybody. We are simulcasting today. We are talking about the much anticipated Ramadan nutrition. So let me move my camera actually backwards from my face. My face looks really big in the camera right now. All right. Assalamu alaikum, everybody who is joining me. Today, we are talking about Ramadan nutrition. This is always a hot topic every Ramadan, simply because every Ramadan, it is a challenge. It is a challenge between what our body needs physiologically and what we're used to culturally or communal or just our nafs, to be honest, right? So if you know somebody that you've been having this conversation with, then go ahead and share this video and tag them and bring them in, because if you and your friends believe that physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is intertwined and the weakness of one weakens them all and the strengthening of one strengthens them all, then welcome. You have found your tribe, because that is what we focus on here on the Fit Muslimah platform, food, faith, and fitness. So I am going to let my Instagram tribe know that I have a PowerPoint today. Yes, I was much more prepared. Yes. But you got to be on Facebook to see it. Or YouTube. All right. So you can go on the Facebook platform and join our other 300,000 tribe members over on Facebook. And you will be able to see the PowerPoint slides that I am going to show, because Instagram does not allow me to show PowerPoints. So we're going to be over on Facebook with the PowerPoint, but you can listen in, obviously, to all of the information. So today we are talking about Ramadan nutrition. And if you have just joined us and you have not joined me last week, you should know that every Tuesday at 12 noon, every Tuesday at 12 noon, I am taking a different topic about Ramadan. So last Tuesday, we talked about the health benefits of Ramadan. You can scroll back on the profile to look at that. Today, we are talking about nutrition. And then next week, we're going to be talking about fitness and exercise. So when we get to the Q&A part, don't ask me about exercise just yet. You're going to have to hold on to those questions. Hold on to those questions, because we will get to them next week. But if you have anything around nutrition and you want to ask a question, then please do so in the comments. And when I'm done giving my spiel, I should say, let me give my spiel first, because I might answer some of your questions before you ask them. So let's talk about Ramadan nutrition. This is part of our series of food, faith, and fitness for Ramadan. This is 2022. And inshallah, we will be able to actually gather this year. I know here where I live in the United States of America, in the Northeast, in the state of Connecticut, they have lifted our mask mandate. They have lifted indoor mask mandates and gathering restrictions. So we are hoping, inshallah, bi-idhnillah, that we will be able to gather together for Taraweeh and inshallah, some iftars as well, and we will be able to once again feel our community love in Ramadan. So, are you out of quarantine and restrictions? Let me know where you live. If y'all still have a mask mandate, if your masjids are open, I would really be interested to see how everyone else is doing in the world in terms of this panorama. Okay, so let's get started. So we are talking about Ramadan nutrition specifically here today. And there is no other time in which we see the interconnection of physical, mental, and spiritual wellness as so clearly seen in Ramadan, right? So Ramadan is a time when you absolutely cannot deny the fact that your physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is all intertwined. Allah literally asks us to do one of the most challenging physical tasks for a human being, to deny all our carnal pleasures, which includes food, right? Drink, sexual intercourse with our spouse during the daytime, right? Everything that is a carnal pleasure, Allah asks us to deny it for His sake, right? So we are using our physical bodies to attain spiritual fitness or spiritual wellness. And this is very, very apparent during this month. So let's talk about how it is intertwined with one another and what we have been doing wrong. So I always like to give people this as the preempt of what I talk about, because I always get comments around, well, I've always done this, or I've been told this, or my doctor said this. I want to say that in this presentation, as I always do on my platform, we talk about the science, right? And there's no better time than now to combine the science and the sunnah. So I'm going to come to you from a physiological perspective. I'm going to talk about research. I'm going to talk about how your body is actually responding to foods, and specifically responding to dry fasting, right? We talk about intermittent fasting a lot. But intermittent fasting, and where we talk about doing a 16-8 fasting day, or even a 24 fasting day, it is a whole different ball game from drinking water while you're not eating than not drinking water when you're not eating. What we do in Ramadan is called dry fasting. And there is a second thing that is going to become really important as we have this conversation. And I say some things that you might hear differently on other platforms, and I'm going to explain to you the difference between what we're doing, wet fasting, dry fasting. Your metabolic process, your cellular process literally shifts differently from when you're drinking water, when you're not drinking water. The second thing is, a lot of times when people think about dry fasting in Ramadan, which is, I'm going to say, to the credit of all of the Muslims who specialize in health and wellness, this is the reason why it's important that you follow people who are Muslim and have the experience of fasting that can combine the science and the nutrition with our actual experience of fasting. Because sometimes we have to put a practical lens on things, but at the same time, we also have to think about the science. So oftentimes people will hear things related to fasting. Oh, it messes up female hormones. Oh, it makes your organs shrink, right? But they're not talking about a short fast like we do in Ramadan. So we do dry fasting in Ramadan, but it is not an extended fast where a lot of the challenges or the cons of fasting can happen. So that's a really important distinction. So we're going to talk about, I know I had a comment on one of the platforms about, can I talk about hormones and what happens in dry fasting? Can I talk about, different things? And I read your comments, and we are going to touch base on that. So what we need to know is that a lot of things that we have talked about that we often talk about in terms of what is the proper nutrition during Ramadan, I have to be honest, and I'm including myself in this, we have really gotten it wrong a lot of times, right? So we have gotten it wrong because as health and nutrition professionals, oftentimes we really get used to quoting and getting people on the health bandwagon, and we just quote kind of standard recommendations, right? Oh, make sure you're eating whole grains and lean protein, and make sure you're getting lots of fruits and vegetables. But the truth is, our body literally shifts into a completely different mode when we are dry fasting. And so a lot of the recommendations that we think would be just transferable over to fasting, it really isn't. So we've gotten a lot of things wrong because we've been given Ramadan nutrition advice based on a non-Ramadan metabolism. So my attempt today is to bring you the science so that we can better understand how we can eat and we can move in a way that both takes in consideration all of the amazing work that our body is doing, because our body is a wonderfully made machine. Allah has truly blessed us with the ability to heal ourselves, both physically, mentally, and spiritually. And He has designated Ramadan as a time to actually push us into that healing process. When we talk about how our metabolisms and our cells shifts during Ramadan, there's specific things that we've gotten wrong. One, our over concern about hydration in Ramadan, and I'm going to talk about that in a little bit, and the science behind that, how we've been like too focused on that, in my opinion, and our push of getting people to eat a lot of whole grains. Now, wait, before you be like, she's going to talk about keto again, blah, blah, blah. Today's presentation is not just about a ketogenic diet. I'm going to tell you the science about healthy eating, during Ramadan, whether you follow a ketogenic diet or not, right? So these are just the simple facts. If you follow a ketogenic diet, then you are going to have to tease out some of the recommendations that I am making as general recommendations for health, right? One of the questions that I always get is, how can I continue to follow a ketogenic diet in Ramadan? And the flat answer to that is continue to follow a ketogenic diet in Ramadan. There's no modification. If you're going to be keto, be keto. Like, you just got to make the decision to do it. All right. So that is the extent that I'm going to give on my keto spill. All right. So let's talk a little bit about why Ramadan nutrition is different than the nutrition advice that we would give on a daily basis. Because our body literally shifts into a different mode of cellular processes and metabolism when we are dry fasting, right? So to give people standard advice in Ramadan without taking account for this shift is sort of like telling people how to fix a Tesla by giving them a Ford manual, right? Not that one is better than the other. That's based on your opinion, based on your lifestyle, based on your pocketbook, right? But when you are giving advice on Ramadan nutrition, it is literally that stark of a difference. Our body processes things very differently when we are dry fasting than when we are wet fasting or when we're eating on a regular basis, right? The research is showing us that dry fasting is the metabolic equivalent to 2 to 3 days of wet fasting. So last week, when we talked about all of the benefits of fasting, the decrease in blood pressure, the increase in insulin sensitivity, the decrease in cholesterol, like all of those things that we talked about, they have been shown in intermittent fasting when people are drinking water, green tea and coffee. Remember, those are the 3 beverages during a wet intermittent fasting, right? All of those benefits have been shown. But when we look at, and there has been a limited amount of studies, so this is the other thing, is that the studies on dry fasting, right, extended dry fasting, I should say, there's been a limited amount of studies that shows that dry fasting actually accelerates all of the benefits of an actual fast. But we also have lots of research specifically around Muslims fasting in Ramadan. So that's another thing that makes this presentation both one of my favorite ones to give, as well as really applicable to us, because they are actually studying Muslims that fast for 16, 18 hours and then break their fast, right? So the research is literally on the Muslim community. So let's dive right in. Let's talk about the first thing that we are always the most concerned about: hydration, 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 right? We talk about this all the time. Just in general, hydration is a very essential part of your health and well-being, right? My philosophy, which I tell you all the time, is everyone, Ramadan, not Ramadan, wanting to lose weight, wanting to gain weight, wanting to stay healthy, doesn't matter what your goal is, you should be drinking half your body weight in pounds and ounces of water every single day. That means if you weigh 200 pounds, right? Not kilograms, 200 pounds, you should be drinking 100 ounces of water every single day. That's just general hydration. But what happens in Ramadan when we are not able to drink water, right? Getting dehydrated. This is always not just a concern for Muslims, but it was actually something that researchers wanted to look at, right? So they actually did a study on Muslims in Malaysia in Ramadan, and they studied their kidney function, they studied hydration markers, they looked at their urine output, they looked at their electrolyte profile, and they found that the majority of Muslims did not get dehydrated in Ramadan. Now, the interesting thing is that this actually looked at like all of the signs of dehydration. It didn't look at why dehydration did not occur, but we're going to talk about that because that's really interesting. Anyway, it's interesting if you're kind of like a research science buff like me. So hydration really isn't a huge concern, right? We should not be like, oh my God, we're going to die of dehydration because we're fasting. Muslims do not dry fast for 3 or 4 days at a time. In fact, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he actually forbade dry fasting, a Ramadan fast, for more than 24 hours, right? So that is we're actually prevented. You should not, as a Muslim, you're not allowed to do a 3-day dry fast. Wet fast, yes, but not a 3-day dry fast. So that is one of the things that's important. And I'm mentioning that because that is really, really important when we look at how it is, all of the negative effects that have often been reported with fasting, right? They're not talking about Ramadan fast. They're talking about people who decide that they want to go 3 days and 5 days and 10 days and literally drink no water. That does not apply to us. All right. So hydration is actually not a huge concern for Muslims in terms of a fear of being dehydrated. So let's reset our mind and remove that fear. As long as you're drinking water during Iftar, in between your Taraweeh, when you get up for Suhoor, right? Drink water, but don't try to drink extra water because you have to go 16 hours without it. Because that can actually cause more harm than good. Because why don't Muslims get dehydrated during Ramadan? Because when we dry fast, this is the beautiful thing about our physiological makeup. Our body is going to make sure that it can survive. And it is going to shift and move and process things differently so that it can survive. So one of the things that the body does is it actually creates internal water. All right. So my Facebook people can see the slide. Instagram people, what you need to understand, what I am getting ready to explain to you, is a wonderful, wonderful process that our body uses, but I need everybody to remember it because this is going to connect to what we're eating. All right. So, couple things. Your body actually, when it does not have water coming in, can create water on its own. It's called metabolic water. Your body literally will create water the same way that it can create energy instead of carbs created from fat when it's not available. When water isn't coming in, it can literally create water. How does it create water? It can actually convert the macronutrients that we eat and the fat that we store into water. It is called metabolic water. You can Google it if you want more science behind it. I think this is absolutely fascinating. So for every 100 grams of fat, our body can create 107 to 110 grams of water. For every 100 grams of carbohydrates, your body can create 60 grams of water. And for every 100 grams of protein, your body can create 42 grams of water. So eating fat is actually going to keep you more hydrated because your body can actually create water from the fat. Say subhanallah. Y'all know, I just love it. When Allah just says, do this, and I'm going to do this, right? I just love it. I just love it. Our body literally can create water on its own. When we sacrifice for Allah, He actually replaces it and replenishes it. So you gotta say subhanallah. That is absolutely amazing. So the next reason why Muslims don't tend to get dehydrated in Ramadan is because when we go without drinking water, our body literally recycles the water that is coming from our cells. So this is different than when you are wet fasting. When you are drinking lots of water throughout the day and not eating food, that is called wet fasting. That is very different than dry fasting. When you don't have water and your body detects that you are not taking in water, so it starts to feel a little bit dehydrated, instead of your cells dispensing of the water and the water going into your kidney and then your bladder and goes out, your body literally the cells release the water and then it recycles it and sends it back through your body. It begins to produce a hormone called vasopressin. One of the many benefits of vasopressin is that it increases your body increases vasopressin by 20%, right? This is the research on dry fasting. But one of the benefits of vasopressin is that it's anti-diuretic hormone. It actually helps your body to recycle the water to be used in the most efficient way. This is absolutely amazing. So Allah literally protects us. He built our body to protect us during the fast, right? This is something that we have to say subhanallah to, right? Every time we think that we are being suffraged for something, Allah says, no, with every difficulty, I have created ease, right? This is an ayat that is often misquoted. Oh, after every difficulty, Allah says He created ease. No. The ayat said, with every difficulty, there is ease. So this is the ease of the fast. So when it comes to hydration, yes, you should be drinking water. I'm not saying don't drink water when you're fasting in Ramadan, but you don't have to be overly concerned about drinking water, right? You just drink the normal half your body weight in pounds and ounces of water every day. Do it in 10-ounce portions. So that means, so this is important too. When you are drinking water, you don't want to sit down and drink 32 ounces of water at one time, right? This is actually a really big mistake that a lot of people make, right? Because there's like this, internet myth that everybody should be drinking a gallon of water a day. I won't get into that, but that's a myth. When you're drinking water, our body must maintain and it makes every effort to maintain a balance in electrolyte, a balance in our sodium, our potassium, our magnesium, right? And so if you sit down and you drink, say, a whole liter of water at one time, your body is not going to actually use all of that water. They've done research where they actually measured the water output and intake of athletes while they were running a marathon. So this is not even just us like sitting around at a desk typing away or making a TikTok video, right? This is an actual athletes while running a marathon. And they found that the body only had the ability to absorb about 20 ounces every hour. So when people say, oh, it's hard for me to increase my water because I'm going to have to pee all the time. The reason why you have to go to the bathroom all the time is because you sat down and you drank a 32-ounce bottle of water and your body got to ounce 20 and was like, or maybe even ounce 16 and was like, well, my muscles are hydrated, my cells are hydrated, I can't do nothing else with the rest of it, so let's send it to the bladder because it got to get out of here. And then you have to go to the bathroom all the time because you're drinking too much water at one time. So if you are going to drink water to stay hydrated, the beautiful thing, I figured this out, right? If you drink 10 ounces every time you make salah during your non-fasting hours, you will get your water in, right? So suhoor, you drink 10 ounces, right? Not 32, just 10. If fasting all day, iftar, you drink 10 ounces. Maghrib, right? So you break your fast with the 10 ounces. After you make Maghrib, say 30, 40 minutes later, you're going to drink another 10 ounces. Then Isha's going to come in. Another hour later, you drink another 10 ounces. Normally, Taraweeh is what? If you drink your water before Isha and you drink your water like at Taraweeh time, you wait in 45 minutes, maybe, possibly an hour, drink another 10 ounces. You know, the break between the salah, when you're making Taraweeh, drink another 10 ounces. Don't drink 30. Remember, we're keeping it small, another 10 ounces, right? Before you go to bed, and drink another 10 ounces. Right there, you have 70 ounces of water. That would be good for somebody that weighs 140 pounds. If you weigh 200 pounds, just up it a little bit. But in that time span, you are keeping everything 45 minutes to an hour apart. You're not going to have to go to the bathroom all the time. And your body will actually be able to absorb the water that you are drinking. All right? So that is our water hydration plan. But remember, don't obsess about it. It's really not that crazy. Your body isn't going to dehydrate because you went 16 hours without drinking water. Dehydration don't happen that quickly. Trust me. Okay. Okay, let's get into food. Eat this, not that, right? Physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is intertwined. The weakness of one weakens them all, and the strengthening of one strengthens them all. So if we can, and I use this quote before we talk about nutrition, because if we can strengthen our physical well-being, Ramadan, more than any time, is going to show how it is directly connected to our spiritual well-being, right? If you are not eating correctly in Ramadan, you are going to be too tired to make Taraweeh. You're missing out on your blessings, right? If you aren't taking care of your body during Ramadan, even before Ramadan, you're going to be too tired to get up for Qiyamul Layl. You're going to be too tired, right? You start missing Fajr a lot. You start missing, and in Ramadan, you start missing Iftar, Sahur, and then, then you start doing those 20-hour fasts and it get really, really difficult. Don't want to do that, right? So this is the time for us now, we're 3 weeks away from Ramadan, to start focusing. Don't use Ramadan as a crash diet. It is not a 30-day challenge, okay? Don't do it. Don't do it to yourself. Start now, all right? It's one of the reasons why that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would fast in Sha'ban more than any other month during the year because people forget about fasting in Sha'ban. So we want to make sure that we are, one, taking advantage of as many sunnahs as we can. And number two, start preparing ourselves now. The Sahabas were known to start preparing for Ramadan months ahead of time. And it's not just preparing of, we're going to make salah at this time, or I'm going to make sure I'm going to be Taraweeh. Yes, you should start adjusting your schedule, right? going to sleep a little earlier, waking up for Fajr a little bit earlier so that you can get up for Sahur and it's not a big issue, right? So if you are used to waking up for Fajr 20 minutes before it goes out so that you can just stay up, you might want to start shifting that. Shift it. Talking to myself first. Shift it. So when it comes to nutrition, we're talking about what we eat for Sahur, what we eat for Iftar. The first thing that I want to say before I start this part is, one, I'm going to tell you about the science and research because, yes, they have studied Muslims and what we eat and have come to some research conclusions about things that benefit us and things that do not benefit us. But I also want to say, as I make these suggestions, that this is a general presentation. And if you have followed me for any amount of time, you will know that my philosophy is there is no such thing as a universally healthy food. If you tell me, I'm going to eat this because it's healthy, is it healthy? I don't know, because I don't know about your health concerns, your health history. I don't know what your goals are. It may or may not be healthy. For example, milk is mentioned in the Quran, but there are some people who are lactose intolerant. Would we say drink milk anyway? I know people who are literally anaphylactic allergic to dairy. Would we tell them to drink milk anyway? Probably not. Honey, it is one of the foods that he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, absolutely loved. But if someone has diabetes and they eat honey, it can literally put them in a diabetic coma. Would we tell them to eat honey? Probably not. Tomatoes are an amazing antioxidant full of lycopene and vitamin C, but if somebody has acid reflux, are we going to tell them to go and eat a tomato salad? Probably not. Even wheat is not inherently bad, right? But for some people with IBS, it can really cause a life-threatening condition, right? If you have Crohn's disease or IBS. So I give those examples to let you know this is why I say no food is universally healthy. For some people, it's healthy. For some people, it's not healthy. So let's proceed with that in mind, all right? So we want to think about what is the best way for us to eat for health, our personal health goals, right? And also, what are some of the ways that we can become healthier? Because research shows that only 12% of the United States population is actually metabolically healthy, right? So a person who is a healthy athlete with performance-based goals is going to be very different what they eat than somebody who has diabetes, who has metabolic dysfunction, who has insulin resistance, who has a hormone imbalance, or is just obese. That is going to be different in your eating. We have to eat in a way that heals our personal health, right? So that is what we want to keep in mind. So let's talk about what I found in the research about how to improve health, how to avoid fatigue when you are fasting, right? We're going to talk about weight loss slightly, and we're going to talk about a little bit about physical fitness. But again, I want to just give my quick disclaimer. This is a general presentation. I'm not here to diagnose or treat any disease. I'm here to give you education and inspiration for you to continue your journey of health and wellness. So let's talk specifically about Sahur. So we're going to talk about Sahur first. We're going to talk about Iftar, and then I'm going to give you a couple of Ramadan hacks. All right. So you definitely want to stay around for that. What is the most important thing for you to eat for Sahur, right? When I thought about like what we want to eat for Sahur, I thought about, okay, what are the things that we as Muslims are the most concerned about when it comes to our Sahur, right? we want to make sure that, particularly if you're like a mom and you got kids that got to go to school, but they got to fast, right? So this was a huge concern of mine when my kids were teenagers, is how do we eat in a way, number one, that's going to sustain energy, right? Number two, it is going to stave off that feeling of hunger, right? And number three, if you do have a metabolic dysfunction or a concern about diabetes or high blood pressure, what is the best thing that you can eat in the morning that is going to actually help facilitate the healing that fasting creates, right? So the first thing we want to look at is actually fats. So 3 macronutrients, just quick review, is fats, proteins, carbohydrates, right? Of those 3 macronutrients, 2 of them are essential, and that is fats and that is proteins. Carbohydrates is not an essential macronutrient. That means that we could live, survive, and even thrive if we never, ever ate another carbohydrate. We could not live, survive, or thrive if we did not eat any fat or any protein. That makes fat and protein an essential macronutrient, and it makes carbohydrates a non-essential macronutrient for life-sustaining properties. Clarification. Okay. One of the reasons why we want to make sure that we are eating a healthy fat for suhoor, so I'm putting this in priorities, right? If you're sitting down trying to create a menu for your family, you want to say, well, the first thing that I want to make sure is that, are they getting healthy fats in the morning? Why? Because they actually looked at how people started a fast and then monitored their signs of hunger throughout the fast. And from their survey at the end of the fast, they found that the group that had a high fat suhoor or high fat breakfast before they began the fast, they actually had less hunger and less discomfort. Right? So you're talking about stomach pains, I'm hungry, I'm weak. The fat actually sustained them better than the high protein or the high carb breakfasts, right? The other thing that people that had high fat breakfast saw a difference that they saw is that they saw that at the end of the fast, their diastolic blood pressure decreased significantly. They did not see that same effect for people who had a high protein or a high carb. And let me say, it doesn't mean that eat only fat and you don't eat protein or carbs, right? We're talking about which one is the most in the ratio of food that you're eating. Even when they talk about high protein, they're not talking about somebody that just got up and ate a burger with no bun, right? They're not talking about somebody that just got up and ate cereal, not even with milk, right? They're talking about what was the highest macronutrient in the meal that they ate. And people who ate high fat had the least amount of discomfort. But it's really, really important that you eat a variety of fat. So this is not in any way an advocation of getting up and having bacon every morning for breakfast, okay? Yes, Muslims eat bacon, halal bacon, for any of my people following. Well, in the United States, because I think that in other countries, they may not have halal bacon, but bacon is not the animal. Bacon is the cut of meat. And in America, in most Western countries, we have beef bacon and turkey bacon. It's not just pork bacon. We don't eat the pork bacon. Just as a clarification, I got some of my non-Muslim brothers and sisters watching, right? So the other thing that happened when people ate higher fat breakfasts before they fast is their post-fast glucose was lower. It decreased more than people who ate high protein or high carb breakfasts. So This is one of the things that I talked about in the beginning of my presentation of how we, and I'm going to say we, because me at one time as well, before I really started diving into the research, tell people, oh, make sure that you're eating a nice hearty bowl of oatmeal in the morning. It's going to sustain you. That's just physiologically incorrect. It really is. And we're going to talk about that as well. So the second thing that should be a priority for you is making sure that you are eating protein in the morning, right? So this is not an avocation. So how does this change? You shouldn't be having a juice smoothie. That's really not going to help you out. It has no fat and it has no protein, right? You may say, oh, but it's healthy. It has, it's a smoothie. It's not really the best thing to eat when you are dry fasting because of what we're seeing in the research, right? Fat is actually going to keep you hydrated. Sounds crazy, but it's true, right? Our body can actually create hydration, metabolic water from fat. Super important for us to remember. Second thing that we want to make sure that we're having is we want to make sure we're having protein, right? Protein does several things. Number one, it boosts the metabolism. Your body actually has to expend more energy to break down protein than it does breaking down anything else. So protein is going to give you a metabolic boost. The second thing that makes protein really important in your sahur is that it's going to keep you full longer, like literally keep you full longer. This is a very matter-of-fact science, right? Again, very easily Googleable. I made up the word, okay? I told you I make up words. When you think about what is going to keep me full, what is going to be in my stomach the longest, that's going to prevent my stomach from being empty so that we don't feel the hunger pains. Now, it may eventually happen during Ramadan. No, the goal of the fast is not to not feel hungry, but as long as our body is doing that digestion, it's also going to give us energy to help us with our day. So that's another really important reason why we want to have food that stays in our stomach the longest, right? Protein, if you just Google how long it takes for food to digest, right? Water goes from your mouth to your bladder in 15 minutes. It's going straight through you. Fruits and vegetables, not that they're bad, but I'm saying they digest really quickly. So if you're having a green smoothie for breakfast at 5 a.m., you're tired at 12 noon because it was digested by 7 and it's not even in your system anymore, right? So that's not the best thing for you to have for sahur. Fish takes between 45 to 60 minutes to digest. And when you have red meat, beef or lamb, I'm not suggesting that this is what you must have, but I'm just giving you your different options. If you have that, that normally takes anywhere from 2 to 4 hours to digest. Now, because we have science and we have food science, we actually have another supplemental option. And I mention this every Ramadan. People are really familiar with whey protein, right? It's a protein that you can buy in a powder and you can drink a whey protein shake, right? If you are into fitness, if you're into weight loss, then you probably already know all the benefits of whey protein. Well, one of the side products of milk is also casein protein, right? Casein protein, I call it the Ramadan protein. So you want to write this down. This is like the most important thing, especially if you're like one of those people like, oh, I don't want to get up and cook breakfast at 5 a.m. Oh, I don't want to eat at 5 a.m. I just rather just have a smoothie. I just want to have something to drink and then go back to bed. This is important for you. Casein protein takes 12 hours to digest. Yes, that is a long time. But The benefit in Ramadan is that it is going to give you energy much longer than anything else. So I don't have a particular brand that I recommend. I recommend that you go to your health food store or your supplement store and you look for in the ingredients. Make sure it doesn't have sugar. Make sure it doesn't have dyes. You can find some really good options. But Casein Protein shake in the morning, I would put that as a Ramadan hack. It's way up on the list of things that you can do to help to stave off you feeling lethargic, tired, or hungry throughout your fast. So Casein, I believe is how it's spelled. So that is what you want to focus on in Ramadan. Remember, fats, and then where are you getting your proteins? The third thing is you do want to minimize carbohydrates. Like I said earlier, carbohydrates isn't even an essential nutrient. That's number one. And number two, they only give you a spike in your energy and your blood glucose, but then it causes you to crash. So if you're one of those people that get up and eat sahur, but by 10 a.m., you're absolutely exhausted, and you're like, oh, I have to take a nap every day during Ramadan, I challenge you to cut carbohydrates out of your sahur. Do it for 7 days and watch the difference in your energy level. It is going to make a huge difference. You're not going to get that crash. Your body will sustain itself, but you got to make sure that you're eating healthy fats and you're eating protein, right? Healthy fats, good protein. That is a really important thing. So what are some of the ways, what are some actual good sahurs, right? I see somebody on Instagram ask that, and that's literally the next slide. So again, my Instagram people, if you're just joining me over on Facebook, I'm actually showing slides to go along with this talk. So you can go over to the Fit Muslima Facebook page and you can see the slides that I'm showing over there. So what are some good ideas for sahur? So eggs, avocados, veggies. That's actually really good. You know, some people, I remember last year, I don't know why there was like this obsession with avocado toast. I personally have tasted avocado toast once. Wasn't nothing to write home about. I love avocados, so it was all right, but I don't know. It just seemed like last year, every blog, people were just talking about avocado toast, avocado toast, avocado toast. Here is the thing. Yes, it is a good sahur. It is an excellent sahur, but not because of the toast, because of the avocados. Because remember, the first thing that we talked about, the first macronutrient we should be concerned about for sahur is fat. Avocado is full of healthy fats. So it is going to stave off all of the negative side effects of going without food. So, hey, if you're not following a ketogenic or a low carb plan and you want to have avocado toast, go for it. It's actually a really good idea. Second thing, Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is great because it has lots of protein, not regular yogurt, not flavored yogurt, not vanilla Greek yogurt, not strawberry Greek yogurt, not yogurt with fruit on the bottom. I'm talking plain Greek yogurt. All right? Make that really, really clear. I'm not saying go and get any Greek yogurt. Get some plain Greek yogurt. And if you want to add a little flavor to it, put some fresh berries on the top. All right? Also nuts, right? Nuts is going to give you a little bit protein. You can sprinkle some slithered almonds on the top. It's going to give you a little bit extra protein inside of that, give you some fiber. It's going to give you more good fats. It's going to add good fats to that yogurt. So the yogurt is going to supply you with lots of great protein, minimum amount of sugar. It's going to give you some, and the nuts will give you good fat. Having breakfast with eggs, right? Eggs is perfect. It is the perfect sahur, in my opinion, because it gives you both of the most important macronutrients together. Your egg yolk is fat, and your egg white is protein. It is the perfect combination of what you need to eat for suhoor. All right. So those are just some ideas. So again, think about healthy fat. Non-traditional breakfasts would be, so a non-traditional breakfast would be having some salmon for your breakfast, right? That gives you good healthy fats. It gives you lots of protein. Making sure that whatever you're cooking, if you decide to make a vegetable stir fry, use olive oil in your vegetable stir fry. It's going to give you a good fats, right? So just think of ways like, where is good fats, right? Where are some of the best fats that's going to give you the best health boost? And you think, how can I incorporate them into my suhoor, right? So if you are having just a protein shake, maybe you want to throw some MCT oil powder in there. Gives you some fats. It's going to give you the protein. That is how you create a combination that works for you and your lifestyle. I like to give you like general, I know people watch me from all over the world, right? We have people in every continent, every country that may be tuning in. And I want to give you a guide. So no matter where you live in the world, you can figure out how you're going to apply this science and research to your particular lifestyle. So maybe you have a traditional food that is full of healthy fats and protein, and you're like, hey, I'm going to eat that for suhoor, right? So that is what I want you to think about on how to apply this to your lifestyle. What to eat for iftar, all right? Next thing, right? So this is interesting, right? Because I think that this is one of the most challenging practical things to implement, because we have a lot of cultural norms around iftar, right? And this year, we may not be privy to making our own iftar every night, right? So, right, in the past, some of the challenges around iftar is the fact that you're often invited to other people's house and you don't have control of what's being served. You're going to the masjid for iftar and you don't have control over what's being served, right? And so there's a lot of challenges around this. But I believe that you have control over what you are eating. It may take some pre-planning. It may even take a little willpower, but you can do this. I believe in you. You can make this a healthy Ramadan. All right. So breaking fast. First and foremost, you want to break fast with water. And if you choose to eat dates, only eat one. Why do I say only eat one date? Because dates is very high in sugar. Yes, it's natural sugar, but your body, your insulin, your blood glucose acts the same way, whether the sugar is coming from dates or it's coming from a soda. Sugar is sugar is sugar. All right? That's just the science of it. Sugar is a chemical compound. Doesn't matter where it comes from. So, one date if you're going to eat date. Yes, if you're following the ketogenic plan, you're not going to eat dates at all. Just want to remind you, the dates is a sunnah. It is not a fard. All right? Why am I really adamant during the month of Ramadan, even all year long, with telling Muslims like, oh, you should not be eating a whole bowl of dates? Because we don't eat dates like the Prophet ﷺ ate dates. Oftentimes, when he ate dates, that was the meal. We want to eat 5 dates, stuff with cream cheese, stuff with pecans, stuff with this, stuff with that, and then turn around and eat biryani samosas, and curry chicken. Prophet didn't eat days like that. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He didn't. All right. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam also did not have diabetes. He did not have high blood pressure. He did not have heart disease. He was not obese. The hadith that describe his Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam physical state was his stomach did not protrude his chest, even in his last years of life. Right? How many of us can say that, man or woman? Right? You must eat in the way that heal yourself. And there are certain things in Islam that is a sunnah and not a fard for a reason. All right, I'm going to get off my pedestal about dates, but just know dates are really, really high in sugar. If you have insulin resistance, if you have diabetes, you want to avoid them. You want to break your fast with water, which is also a sunnah, by the way, because 2 medjool dates literally has the amount of sugar that's inside of a soda. That's how much sugar are in dates. Most dried fruits are really, really high in sugar. You want to be conscious of that. All right, let's go on to breaking fasts, right? So when we are fasting, one of the hormonal shifts that we have is our insulin level lowers, right? Our insulin level lowers. When you break fast and then you are having pasta for dinner, you're having French fries, you're having mashed potatoes, you're having a whole bunch of white rice, your insulin level goes from here into once your insulin level goes up, then you have now mitigated all of the benefits of almost all of the benefits of the fast. This is the reason why people eat iftar, they feel good, they make in Maghrib, but then 2 hours later, it's time for Tarawih, and you start getting tired. Why? Because of the delayed fatigue that happens with insulin. Our body is designed for our insulin level to rise when we eat food. Doesn't matter what kind of diet you're following. If you're a human being, insulin level is going to rise. When you have insulin resistance, 2 hours later, your insulin has not fallen back down. When your insulin level is still high 2 hours later, your body starts to feel really fatigued, right? So if you are finding you're 2 weeks into Ramadan and you just don't have the energy to make Tarawih, right? It's like, I wanted to, but I'm getting really exhausted, right? Oh, my day must have been super long. It probably wasn't your day. It was probably your plate. I'm just saying. Do a little